Imagine one day you're swimming at the beach and suddenly you come across actual human remains. That's exactly what happened to people on one of the beaches in California, USA, but the real shock, the criminal turned out to be a cute serial killer. The person we're going to talk about in this story is a murderer, a criminal, and a serial killer, yet strangely, he was loved by the public, especially by the police. Now imagine someone who went through a lot of pain during his childhood, all because of his mother. That suffering eventually turned into violence, and he began hurting and killing innocent people who had absolutely nothing to do with his past. Despite all that, people still believed he had a kind heart. I recommend you watch the video all the way through and follow our story to catch all the crazy details. Hey, welcome back to your world. Before we dive into the video, don't forget to subscribe. The person we're focusing on in this story is named Edmund Kemper, nicknamed Big Idol because of his huge build. At 25 years old, he was 2.05 meters tall and weighed 127 kilos back in 1948, living in an American city. He grew up with both his mom and dad, had two sisters, and he was the middle child. They all lived in the same city where he was born. His relationship with his dad was rough, but things were even worse with his mom. He hated her because she was harsh and aggressive. She was with him and was addicted to drinking alcohol. When he was 9 years old, his parents got divorced and his dad left them. He was addicted from a young age and suffered from several illnesses. His behavior was violent from early on. Imagine he used to cut off the heads of his brother's toys and mutilate them just to vent his anger. After finishing with the toys, he moved on to something much worse, hurting animals. He once admitted that he tortured a cat and buried it alive. He always liked to torture cats and other animals. When he was 10, he used to say that if one of the female teachers kissed him, he might kill her. Just imagine how much violence was in this guy's mind. Ever since he was a kid, he used to say his mom was the reason for all the problems he went through. It was all because of the unfair treatment he faced. His mom kept him downstairs in the house because she thought he might hurt his siblings. The room he was locked in had just a sleeping bag and a dim light hanging from the ceiling. He would sleep there with rats running around playing with him. Just imagine a kid his age being stuck in a place like that. What could be worse than that feeling for a child? After all this suffering, he ran away to Los Angeles to look for his dad, who had abandoned them years ago. And he actually managed to find his dad's place and went straight to the door and knocked. So the shock came when they saw his dad refuse to live and they sent him to live with his paternal grandparents on their farm. That's where the criminal path began, because his grandmother was just like his mother, someone who treated him with violence and hate. There's no doubt this guy is mentally ill and needs direct treatment. Actually, calling him mentally ill doesn't even cover it. His condition is way worse. But the real shock is that the people around him didn't try to help. Instead, they treated him the opposite way, with violence. One time, his grandfather was out working and he took the rifle. He was at home, then went to his grandmother's place and shot her, killing her. When his grandfather realized what happened and went back home, he found his wife dead. He decided to kill him too so he wouldn't have to live through that shock. You can imagine the kind of sickness and strange state this kid was in, and he was only 15 years old. The dumbest thing he did after killing them was calling his mother and saying, "Listen, I killed my grandpa and grandma." She told him, "God bless you," but in their own way, of course. Then she told him to stay put and called the police. After that, he got arrested and confessed to the crime. What helped him at the time was that he was still a minor. The doctors diagnosed him with schizophrenia with delusions of grandeur and sent him to a public hospital. But will that really help him? He stayed there for 5 years receiving treatment. After those 5 years, they thought he was cured and released him when he was 20. The hospital staff warned the young man that once he left, he shouldn't go back to live with his mother in the same place. Unfortunately, no one paid attention to that. They sent him back to live with his mother in Santa Cruz. Sadly, at that time, he was obsessed with killing, especially women. Ever since he left the hospital, this behavior continued. He used to hang out at the places where the police were, sitting with them and getting to know them, building friendships. The cops said he had a unique personality. He was friendly, sweet, and kind. I don't really get what kindness means in this context, but they also said their friend really liked him. Around the time, he decided to improve his behavior because he had been aggressive. He started working as a taxi driver, taking people, especially girls, to the university. The reason the girls trusted him more was that his car had the university's logo on it, so when he was driving the girls and talking with them, they felt safe. He used to remember his mother and how she treated him, but instead of softening him, it made him hate women even more. His violent and twisted thoughts took over, and he decided to start taking out his anger by killing innocent people. Here's how he did it. He'd be driving his car, giving rides to people who needed to get to the university. But instead of going straight, he'd change the route and head to a remote forest. There, he'd kill and assault them while they were helpless, then cut up their bodies and get rid of the pieces. Just imagine the amount of pain and hatred inside this guy. Seriously, when I tell you stories like this, that the most dangerous creature on earth is a human being, believe me, Irfan, what I've been telling you so far is about him killing 2 people, his grandfather and grandmother. After that, these 6 went on to kill 2 more people. But those 2 victims, I'll get to them at the end so we can go through the events step by step. Honestly, I'm gonna hit you with a surprise at the end. The first victim was an 18-year-old student. They found her head cut off in the mountains with no body. The second victim was also 18 and loved skiing. The third victim was a ballet dancer, only 15 years old. The fourth was Sandashol, about a year old. She was a student too and worked as a babysitter. The fifth was Rosalind B. Thorpe, 23 years old and a college student. The sixth victim, Allison, who was 21 years old and also a college student, had the police completely puzzled by these random crimes happening all over. The killer didn't leave any traces and there was no lead the investigators could follow. You might say, if his mom was the reason for his mental state, why didn't he just go and kill her? Since he's a killer anyway, why kill innocent people? Stay calm and don't jump to conclusions so I don't get upset. On May 7, 1972, during his time working as a taxi driver at the University of California, he went out with 2 18-year-old friends, Mary and Janet, and took them nearby. He was supposed to drop them off on campus. But instead, he took them to some remote spot and started threatening them, saying they better not resist or else. And of course, they were girls with no way to fight back, especially since the guy was like a wall, about 2 meters tall and 127 kilos. How could they possibly resist someone like that? Once he got to this isolated area, he stopped the car, forced one of them into the trunk, locked it, and then took Mary and actually killed her. Mary died right then and there. Just imagine how terrified the other girl must have felt, trapped in the trunk, hearing her friend get stabbed, her screams, and her struggles. It was truly a cruel and awful situation. After he finished his crime, the architect went to Anita, pulled her out of the car, and stabbed her too. Then he took the 2 girls, both dead, and went to the apartment he was renting. There, he cut them up. After that, he headed to the mountains and got rid of Justin's remains. One day, by chance, a couple was walking near the spot where the body parts were scattered and they had 2 dogs with them. When they noticed the remains, they were shocked by what they saw and immediately called the police. The police identified the 2 girls and found out they had been missing, with their families searching for them. The crazy part is, after committing the crimes, he would go to bars and greet police officers like nothing happened. The guy was violent and mean, with no mercy or compassion at all. On September 14, 1972, he was looking for a customer to give a ride to, like he usually did, and he saw Aiko, a 15-year-old ballet dancer who was late for the bus. She looked really rushed and scared because she didn't want to be late for her dance class. She was headed to San Francisco, so he offered to give her a ride. But poor girl didn't know who this violent criminal really was because instead of taking her to San Francisco, he drove her to a remote, isolated area. And as usual, because she was so young and he was so physically strong, there was no way she could fight back. When they got there, he strangled her. Iko died, and he took her body to the apartment he was renting and assaulted her while she was dead. Then, just like last time, he cut her body into pieces and got rid of them in a remote spot in the woods, of course. Music and Allison, like usual, they got into a taxi with him so he could take them to the university. He kidnapped them the same way he did with the other victims. While they were in the taxi trying to fight back, he grabbed a knife and stabbed both of them, cut their bodies, and threw them into the sea. Honestly, what a stupid thing to do, I don't get it. Later, the sea washed the remains up on the shore. People who saw it were terrified and immediately reported what they had seen to the police after it was over. The crime he had been dreaming about his whole life. In March of 1973, Eddie went into a gun store to buy a pistol. But after the shop owner checked his record, he noticed it was scratched out and said this guy might be a minor who committed a murder. So after selling him the pistol, the owner reported it to the police and gave them the details. They found out this guy was their own Eddie, so they went to him to follow up. When they got to his mom's house, Eddie started his car, greeted them, and they asked, "Did you buy a pistol?" He said, "Yeah, that's right." They told him, "But we have to take the pistol." He said, "Okay, no problem." At the time, he thought they had found out he killed the 6 girls, so he had hidden the gun in the trunk of the car. He was planning to pull out the gun and shoot the police officers, then go to his mom's place and get rid of her to be done with it. But the cops were too smart and ruined his plan. They took his car keys, made him stay away, grabbed the gun, and left. That's when Ed realized he was about to get caught soon and had to hurry up with his plan. On April 20th, 1973, Ed woke up to the sound of his mom coming home from a party. She was drunk, God bless you, and was really aggressive toward him at that time. I think this whole thing just pushed him to do it more, to convince himself he was right. After I went into her room and she fell asleep, he grabbed a hammer, went in, and started hitting her head over and over. As he hit her, he was trying to vent all his anger, remembering everything he'd been through, the filthy room, the rats crawling around the floor, the miserable state he was in. After he was done with the hammer, he cut off her head. The sicko even put her head somewhere and started throwing darts at it like it was some game. Then he cut her vocal cords because he said that's why she kept yelling at him. As for Lolly, honestly, I have nothing more to say. After he was done with her, he wasn't satisfied because he was afraid her best friend would find out what happened. So he decided to call her and have her come over to their house, pretending they were inviting her. She actually came over and then he killed her too. He hid the bodies in one of the closets in the house, something really strange. She didn't deserve any of this. Why bring her in and kill her? And this house you see is where the crime happened. After what he did, he wrote a note and put it in the mailbox saying, "Sorry, folks, for the mess, but I didn't have time." Then he ran away. Right at home, after hearing all these details, you might start doubting that this guy could actually commit such crimes. Honestly, I was surprised too. But the shocker is that the ones who told this story were the investigators who worked on his case, the cops who knew him, and even the doctor who was with him in the hospital after the crime. Turns out he was addicted to drugs, stole his mom's friend's car keys, and took off driving nonstop for 3 days straight without any rest. Then one evening, he called Officer Jim Connor from a booth, his friend who used to hang out with him in bars. Imagine he had driven over 1,000 miles without sleeping. So when the officer was sentenced, he said, "Listen, I need to confess something. I killed my mother and her friend." What made him admit it, especially after traveling all that way? You gotta hear the story about the message he left for them in the mailbox. That part was never clear. Then he told them the bodies were in the house. The investigators went there, opened the safe where he'd hidden them, and were shocked by what they saw. He also confessed that he was the one who killed the 6 missing girls. The police officers didn't believe him at first, but after seeing the scene in the house, there was no way they could think he was lying. The evidence was right in front of them. He used to take them to places where he would get rid of the body parts he had cut off. He reenacted every crime he had ever committed in his life. 10 people, his grandfather and grandmother, 6 innocent girls, his mother, and his mother's friend. In October 1973, he was put on trial for multiple murders. He admitted to carrying out all those crimes. The families of the innocent girls he killed were present in the courtroom, so imagine the pain they went through hearing his confession. It honestly breaks your heart. He was sentenced to life imprisonment because the 2 people he killed, his grandfather and grandmother, were murdered when he was a minor. In your opinion, what made him turn into such a ruthless criminal and serial killer with no mercy? Was it his broken family life and the abuse he suffered from his mother? Or was he just born to kill? What do you think is the reason? Could his mom really have treated him that badly for no reason, or was she sick too, like him? God only knows. But what really upsets me is the innocent people who were killed because of this strange man. By the way, he's still alive in prison today. Nihad. And as always, there's a lesson in every story. The lesson here is that the role of the mother and father is essential and should be a top priority in raising a child. The kids wouldn't have ended up like this if the family hadn't fallen apart. The dad didn't just leave for no reason and didn't kick his son out. Even if the mom treated him badly while raising him, maybe none of this crime would have happened and we wouldn't be talking about it in this story. Write your thoughts about this story in the comments section. That's it for our story. See you in the next video. Peace out.